Hi, everybody. I'm Hub Arkush. He's Kevin Fishbain. He's Arthur Arkush. We're reporting from Halas Hall on the Friday before the Bears travel to Minnesota to take on the Vikings for the second time this year. Week 8 following the bye didn't go so well. They lose 23-20 on a last-second field goal. Kevin, these are two very different football teams now, 7 weeks later? You look at the Chicago Bears. They were riding high coming out of Green Bay Thanksgiving night. Now they're struggling in almost every phase of the game, and it starts with that run defense. And you know the Vikings are going to attack with Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, and they did to the tune of 100 carries for Adrian Peterson in Week 8, and he probably would have had more if they didn't go away from him for that offense. So this is going to be key for guys like Shea McClellan, who had maybe his worst game this season against Washington, to step up. You know, maybe John Timu comes in an inside linebacker. But the defensive linemen is where I'm going to be watching, because Minnesota's offensive line just dominated in the trenches in that game back on November 1st. So Eddie Goldman, Jarvis Jenkins, Will Son, the Bears are going to need a lot from those guys.
And it's interesting, this Viking offensive line, Arthur, their two best players, Phil Lodeholt, John Sullivan, been on IR all year long. Matt Khalil was drafted to be the franchise at left tackle. Some Sundays he is. Other Sundays he's awful.
Yeah, he's been inconsistent, so maybe that's an opportunity for Chicago's ascending edge rushers to get it going, take advantage of Khalil. And then on the other side, the rookie T.J. Clemmings. It has been inconsistent in terms of protecting Teddy Bridgewater, but that's been a problem for the Bears, applying consistent pressure, particularly in the first meeting when Bridgewater was barely hit and yet struggled through 3+ quarters.
Kevin, the Bears have been tested in the secondary all year long. This Viking group was supposed to be able to. Cordero Patterson's invisible at this point. It's Mike Wallace. Stephon Diggs has been a find for them this year, but they're not a scary threat like the Bears have seen from other teams in recent weeks.
No, you know, Wallace and Diggs can certainly blow a top off a defense, but the Bears haven't really been beat, at least early in games, by these long plays. It's been fourth-quarter breakdowns like we saw against Minnesota, like we saw against San Francisco. The player I'm going to be watching for them is Kyle Rudolph. I mean, Kyle Rudolph probably watched the tape of what Jordan Reed did to the middle of that Bears defense. He's going to want to try to do the same thing. So he might be the threat, and of course Diggs, because the Bears have a question at slot corner coming into the game.
And Arthur, one of the reasons the Vikings haven't been that scary with those receivers is Teddy Bridgewater, the young quarterback. Only in his second year, shows flashes of being the real thing, also shows times when doesn't appear to have an NFL arm and may not be much more than a game manager.
Aside from those last 2 drives at Soldier Field in Week 8, I'm confident Bears fans haven't seen the best from Bridgewater. The problem, the Vikings haven't seen it regularly either. So, it's a big opportunity for him, obviously, but he's still a young guy. He is still going to react to the pressure they weren't able to get in Week 8. So the key is to try and hit him in early and often, but also keep him in the pocket, because that's been a problem for Bears defenses of late, is the mobile quarterbacks.
It is on defense where the Vikings scare you the most, but they've been banged up, played without 4 starters last week. Linval Joseph was having a Pro Bowl-type season at tackle. He's been down. Everson Griffin with a knee. Brian Robinson on the other side gives him some pressure. The pass rush has not been what you would expect it to be this season so far.
No, ever since the game before they played the Bears, they just knocked Matthew Stafford around all game long, and ever since then, they've only struggled maybe 1 or 2 sacks every game since. So you mentioned, Anthony Barr, we're not sure on his status for the game and how that factors in, but Robeson and Griffin, you know what they can bring off the edge. And I'm pretty confident Kyle Long's going to have a good game, bouncing back from what happened in Washington. Charles Leno's been good in pass protection, but really the Bears' best protection against sacks has been Jay Cutler's legs and being able to improvise.
In the secondary, Harrison Smith may be the best safety in football right now. He's been out recent weeks. They hope to get him back. Their savior, Arthur, has been the 37-year-old Terrence Newman, who's played everywhere in the secondary and has played fairly well.
Yeah, he's been good. He doesn't look like he's 37. He's shown versatility. He's shown leadership for them, and that'll be an issue for the Bears. I expect, though, the premier matchup in this game is going to be Xavier Rhodes against Alshon Jeffrey. Rhodes drafted in the first round for these types of big-time matchups. Jeffrey's had the better of him, including in the first meeting at Soldier Field.
For those of you who have forgotten, it may have been special teams that cost the Bears that game in Soldier Field. A 65-yard punt return early kept the Vikings in the game. Bears special teams better of late. They've got to be even better again Sunday to hang with the Vikings in a must-win game for the Minnesota Vikings to hang on to that second wildcard spot. For all the best coverage of the game, all the best Bears news all week long, stay right where you're at 24/7 at chicagofootball.com.